And so when I say Chinese, I want you to scream out the nation that's associated with this. For example, if I say Chinese, you're going to say what?
China.
All right, let's say it with authority. When I say Chinese, you say what?
China.
All right, that's just a test right there. So here we go. Chinese.
China.
Russian.
Russia.
Italian.
Italy.
German.
Germany.
Swedish.
Sweden.
Korean.
Korea.
Egyptian.
Egypt.
Nigerian.
Nigeria.
Black.
Exactly. Nothing. Tell him, Pastor. Tell him, Pastor. Black, nothing. Yes.
I hope you were able to successfully identify the issue.
I'm so glad you're here because you can bring great clarity. Can you tell us a little bit about the Sephardic Jews and how they were scattered because they went west?
I sure can.
Because the reason why I want to is because a lot of them, and a lot of people don't know this, are in the Caribbean.
They are.
In the islands.
And you're one of them. I know that.
I'm one of them.
I know that.
Because, a lot of folk don't know that those roots are there. One of the first batches of slaves that came to Jamaica, they were the Sephardic Jews. It's documented.
And they're all over the Caribbean, South America, Central America, and even the South Central United States.
Wow.
And DNA testing is a factor in all this now.
Genesis chapter 11, verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you.
I want to say peace and blessings, everyone. Hope you guys are doing great tonight, rather. Want to apologize to you guys for not broadcasting our Shabbat earlier today. Left our some key components at home and forgot to unpack it and bring it back to the temple. So I didn't have an opportunity, enough time to get everything set up and reconnected so that way we could do our live there. So a lot going on, very busy week, a very busy day since I returned from Atlanta, Georgia. So had a great time down there. But tonight, again, want to say peace and blessings to everyone. And before we get started, let me give some shout outs. And then I want to do part 2 to the lesson I taught for over 3 years. This is a lesson I taught for over 3 years, literally. The Most High gave me this message. It's a very detailed presentation. And I taught the same message for 3 years. The same message for 3 years, right? And I was thinking about a pastor who had done the same thing. I was thinking about what he had done in his testimony in doing that. I remember a pastor a while back, he said that the Most High told him to teach the same message until he tell him to stop. And that message went on for about 4 or 5 years. And after a while, one of his deacons, I believe the chairman of the deacon board, came to him and said and asked him a question like, "Hey, pastor, the people are really getting concerned because you're teaching the same sermon. You're doing the same sermon every single service. And they're getting kind of concerned. And I just want to ask you, why are you preaching the same message over and over again?" And the pastor responded to that chairman of the deacon board. He said, "Because of this question that you just asked me." So he told him in a nutshell, if you have to ask the question, that means he has to continue to teach that same message, right? But nevertheless, I want to say peace and blessings to you guys. And this is the lesson that I taught literally for over 3 years. Over 3 years as we transition our ministry out of Christianity into this awakening, this truth. And so again, we're going to get into it. But I want to give some shout outs, give enough time for others to join us this late night. I know this is not one of a pre-scheduled session here. And, for some of you geeks that are up right now, we'll have a little late night lesson to continue on with part one that I did about a week ago, maybe a little longer. So before we get started, let me give some shout outs here. Let's see here. Let's start off with Davion Murphy. I want to say shalom to you. Peace and blessings to you, brother. Who else do we have here? Lion Pride. Want to say shalom to you as well. My buddy Charles West. Want to say shalom to you. DeWitt, Patton. Want to say shalom to you from Indiana. Peace and blessings to you, brother. Let's see who else we have here. Sisters Knit and more. Shalom to you as well. Who else do we have here? Diane Clark, want to say shalom to you from Norfolk. Hey, come and see us. You close. You literally close. You close to us. Where we located? We're located in the Richmond area, right near the airport, literally right off the highway. So if you want to come visit us, let us know. Reach out to me offline, and we'll, make sure we accommodate you. So come on out and visit us. I want to say peace and blessings to Aaron and Cecilia. That's right. Israelites representing tonight. DC in the house. That's right. Again, I'm in the Richmond area. I'm south of you guys, about an hour and a half to 2 hours away. If you guys ever want to come over and visit us, let me know. We are working on the feast days to celebrate the Pesach, and we also get ready to celebrate Purim as well. So feel free to reach out to us if you want to be part of this celebration. I appreciate you. All right. Sister Knits and more. Want to say blessings to you. Who else we have here? Cry aloud, spare not. That's right. We got to make sure that our voices are heard in this day and time. The remnant, right? The remnant. We are the remnant. Remember that, family. I want to make sure I make that clear. Peace and blessings to the remnant, to the surviving portion. That's what the remnant means. Remnant means it means the surviving portion. So we may touch on that a little bit, but be proud to be the surviving portion. Forget that left behind stuff that we learned in Christianity, because Christianity taught us to be ashamed to be left behind, that being left behind is a bad thing, when actually that's the remnant. But anyway, I would do that lesson again. I tried to do it again, just so that way you guys get the full presentation. And YouTube was doing all kinds of crazy stuff a few days ago, so I may try to revisit it another time. But also, who else do we have here? William Smithers, want to say peace and blessing. That's right. Very busy day. Mariah, want to say shalom to you. Who else do we have here? Promise Bantu, want to say shalom to you as well. Let me see here. Did I bring up here? That's right. Shalom. I want to say shalom to you. And again, want to continue to give my condolences to Dr. Trevor's family. Want to make sure that we be a blessing to them, and I'll be posting the information. And for those that are subscribed to the Patreon, I'm going to upload some videos tomorrow to begin the first Hebrew lesson. So look forward to getting that, uploading that video and start getting that channel going as well. So, but again, Dr. Trevor, want to make sure we be a blessing to him. and whatever is accumulated over in the Patreon as we build it up, I'm going to forward the proceeds over to his family. All right. So let's see here. Who else do we have here? Ernest Higgs, shalom to you. Rashida, shalom to you. Who else do we have here? Devin Haney, want to say peace and blessings to you. Praise Ahaya Yasha. Oh, Yashaya, want to say peace and blessings to you. Want to say shalom to you. Who else do we have? I think I said it, but I'm going to say it again if I didn't. Diane Clark, peace and blessings to you again. That's right. Come up from Norfolk. Look forward to seeing you. All right. Batya, I want to say peace and blessings to you. Who else do we have here? Constanza, I want to say peace and blessings to you. Salama to you. Israelite wife Desiree, want to say peace and blessings to you. Want to say shalom all the way out to Las Vegas. Want to say peace and blessings to you. My buddy Jay Highstyle, want to say peace and blessings to you. Brother Enoch, want to say peace and blessings to you as well. All right. Did I get everyone here? Stacy Pullum, want to say shalom to you. All right. All right. So appreciate you. I want to sow a seed to the ministry. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and put this banner up, and I'll put the information for those that want to sow a seed to the ministry. Now I'm going to post the actual. I'll post it right here. Let's see here. I'll put it inside the banner, and for those that want to be a blessing to the ministry. I know a lot of times I forget to even put this up. I get asked a lot, and I keep forgetting to put this up. So let me get it real quick. All right. All right. Bear with me 1 second. Let's put this up here. All right. Okay, here we go. And the Cash App information is there. Those who want to sow a seed through PayPal, the information is there. Passion for Reconciliation. And again, really appreciate the love and support and helping this channel grow. I mean, we grew a lot in a short period of time. I didn't start taking this channel serious until almost 2 years ago. Right? I believe it was the year before last, around the year before last. I want to say around the September, October timeframe, something like that, when I began to actually use this channel. In the first year, we grew pretty quick to 5,000 subscribers. And then this past year, we tripled that. So I really appreciate all the love and support from you, family. And I really appreciate you guys. It makes what I do very easy. So appreciate you guys. Let me put this banner up. I thought I had it up. Apparently I didn't have it up. Let me put it up here right now. All right, there we go. And so again, reach out to me offline if you're in the area. And I have to get up to speed too. I not up to speed. I have to get caught up with my email because I haven't been able to check my email in almost a week because I'm behind on my email, going away for the conference down in Atlanta, and then getting back, trying to get caught up with other things. And of course, daughter, freshman in college and all that other stuff. So a lot going on. So, but yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started, family. And before we get started, I really want to, I really want to talk about something. And thank you, Las Vegas Knights, for the compliment. You're growing more because the Most High is awakening Israel. Absolutely. It's nothing about me. It's all about the Most High, because now he's really awakening Israel, and he's calling, some leaders. They really calling. He's calling for leaders to really start teaching this truth with accuracy, and we're going to touch on it a little bit tonight. So I really appreciate it. Just, I just believe in this is biblical. We just keep things simple. We be honest with what we're teaching. The Most High take care of the rest. He's not going to allow his people, his servant, to fall flat on their face. He's not going to let anyone harm them. Right. But anyway, so with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started here. But before we get started, let me bring my screen up here. I want to touch on the current event. I'm not going to get into details or anything like that, but I want to say this to you, family. Be careful of itching ears. Be careful of having itching ears. I want to say peace and blessings to Roy Tatum. But be careful, family. Be careful to getting caught up in itching ears. Because I know that the common talk right now is what's happening in Russia. And I'm just going to touch briefly on that. Whenever something happened over in whether it's Russia, whether it's China, whether it's Northern Korea, this is where you get a lot of the end time prophets coming out. All of a sudden, you start seeing, the internet, social media get flooded with all kinds of end time prophecies. And the Messiah warned us about that, wars and rumors of wars. Now, what's happening between over in Russia, it definitely should cause you to raise a brow, to pay attention to the current events. But be careful, family. Be careful of having itching ears floating from one space to another space, all because of hearing someone talk about end time prophecy. Do you know many cults, right? Like David Koresh, right? He built his ministry off of end time prophecy. Quite a few cults. I forgot I think it was the Promise Keepers or something like that. I can't remember their name, when it was like 40 or 50 senior citizens. They very well off, but they all committed suicide because of what? End time prophecy, not having an understanding of the end time prophecy. It was manipulated through that. Family, I'm excited and I'm waiting patiently for the Most High to come and restore us. I'm waiting patiently for that. But I am not going to be anxious from a perspective of my vision become blurred, and gets so consumed with this. So this is why you have to be patient and make sure you know this word, because if not, you're going to get caught in a lot of itching ear doctrine. So let me give you a little clarity on what's happening over in Russia, because I've seen some crazy posts. I've been tagged in some crazy videos all about what's going on with Russia and so forth. But let me give you just a little clarity with Russia, right? Because we know when you start understanding these communist communities, right, they have total control over the media, total control. They control the narrative. What's being broadcasted outside that country is totally different than what's being broadcasted internally, whether it's Korea, Northern Korea, rather, whether it's China, whether it's Russia, whether it's Iran, whether it's Syria. When you start dealing with a communistic community, they dictate everything, right? So I want to give clarity, because Putin justified his behavior by saying that he's doing it because the Nazi group in Israel, starting with the president of Ukraine, right, Zelensky. And let me start off by showing you a piece of history, right, with this news article that I've been sharing for ages, right? But let me just share this with you before we get started. I'm going to show you an article from the New York Times. You guys seen me show this article before a while back. Ukrainian Jews aim to stop pogroms New York Times, September 8th, 1919. That's right, September 8th, 1919. And you can have access to this article and other archived articles in the New York Times database, archived database. You can subscribe, pay whatever fees, and just what I'm sharing on the screen here, this is how you get to it. You'll have access to all of this information. So as you see here, Ukrainian Jews aim to stop pogroms, commissioned to visit Europe, and prepare a memorandum for President Wilson. Lansing gives permission. Mass meeting hears that 127,000 Jews have been killed and 6 million are in peril. We're dealing with Ukrainian, right? Why is this significant, right? And this is the rest of the information on here. And I'm going to show you the actual archived article, the PDF. I'm going to share with you here. Let me pull it up. This is the actual article. I have the entire PDF, right? Downloaded from New York Times. But we're dealing with who? Ukraine. Why is this important? Why is this important? The president of Ukraine is Jewish, right? Let me say that again. The president of Ukraine is Jewish. Let me say that one more time. The president of Ukraine is Jewish, right? Remember, I'm not getting into the semantics of the true Israelites versus being Jewish. I'm not getting into all of that. You guys already know. But I'm here to say, for Putin to say that he's going there to wipe out the Nazi, whatever resistance that's there, that's completely false. Starting with the president of Ukraine is Jewish. Whether you want to refer to Ukrainian Jew or Ashkenazi Jew or whatever, but he is Jewish, right? And so when you understand this, you start getting a better, putting things in the proper perspective. The last thing I want to point out, because I don't want to get too deep into this, we'll get into our lesson, family. Again, anyone, and I'm going to make this clear, anyone who says that, this can be the potentially start or trigger World War III, really don't understand history, still viewing the prophecies through a Eurocentric perspective, not realizing that World War III has already occurred, family. Let me say that again. World War III has already occurred. I'm going to say it one more time, right? World War III has already occurred.
What?
Already occurred. Already occurred. So many of our brothers and sisters are waiting for World War III. Many are teaching that we're preparing for World War III. Now, I know some of you guys are like, well, what are you talking about, Pastor? Can you prove it? Absolutely. And I've been saying this for years on top of years. The transatlantic slave trade is actually the transatlantic world war. Let me say that again. The transatlantic slave trade is actually the transatlantic world war.
What?
That's right. It's the transatlantic world war. So whenever you hear someone say that they are waiting for World War III to happen, you have to ask them, what is the definition of a world war? You could just go to Oxford Dictionary, or you could go to Webster. You could go, it's a number of sources. You can do the research yourself and find out what defines a world war, and you will see that what happened to our ancestors for the Transatlantic World War is exactly what it is. It is a world war. It's not a slave trade. It is a world war. Right? It's not a slave trade. Let me just share something with you real quick, guys, because some people just want to hold on to certain things. It was not a slave trade. It was a world war that was declared on that territory. Right? It was a world war that was declared on our people, a specific group of people that they targeted. Now, let me show this real quick, and then we'll get back to it. We'll get to our main stuff here. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Let's see. Let me see if I can pull it up. Do I have it inside this presentation? If I do, I'll show you here. Because that is a pet peeve of mine. I am so tired of hearing World War III. I've been tired of hearing this even when I was in the church. I've been saying this even when I was within the church, still within Christianity. So let me share this real quick. So for those that don't understand, it's still trying to classify what transpired over there as a world war. I mean, not a world war, as a slave trade that is purposely labeled that to dumb us down, to not look at what actually occurred. That it was a slave. It wasn't a slave trade. It was a world war. And our ancestors who have been kidnapped, our ancestors who have been raped, our ancestors that have been taken, that's the word rapture, right? Guess what? It was a world war. Because the Roman Catholic Church led the war. It had agreements with other major countries. So let me share this real quick, and then we'll get into our lesson. This is Slavery in the Catholic Church, written in 1975. Notice what it says here. Papal, that is the Pope. That is Papa. That is the father of Christianity and the Roman Catholicism. Right? Let me say that again. Pope, Papa, Pappy, right? He is the one that signed the Articles of War. He pushed the Articles of War. Because when you understand there was a war going on with the Portuguese and the Moors. But notice what it says here. Papa grants the kings of Portugal giving authority to enslave Saracens and other non-Christians of West Africa, with whom Christendom is at war. And we see 1452 to 1514. In 1442, a Portuguese captain brought to the Gold Coast some Moorish prisoners of war, exchanged them for 10 Negro slaves, and brought these back to Lisbon. A trading settlement was established at Lagos by 1444. It would appear that by 1452, the Portuguese were anxious to establish their property over their newly discovered West African territory. And so Pope Nicholas V, right? St. Nicholas, Santa Claus, Pope Nicholas V was approached and was apparently led to believe that these territories of the Guinea coast were inhabited by Saracens and other enemies of Christendom. There is no explanation of the series of papal documents which applied the well-known contemporary rules of war. Notice what it says. Let me say that again. It says there is no other explanation of a series of papal documents which applied the well-known contemporary rules of what? Did it says of trade, or does it say of war?
What?
Of war, family. Of war. Let me give the garbage can to anyone that's teaching that's continued to say slave trade versus world war. as you see here, it says, there is no other explanation of a series of papal documents which applied the well-known contemporary rules of war to the situation where in West Africa, whereas the Portuguese were well aware of the local Negro inhabitants were not Saracens, and what Saracens are, well, I'll break it down real quick. We're not Saracens, we're not Muslims, and we're not the enemies of Christendom. In 1452, Pope Nicholas V, Santa Claus, right? So I didn't put it all up in there. So, but anyway, key quote, the local Negroes inhabitants were not Saracens, they were not Muslims. So who are Saracens? This is coming from the Britannica Encyclopedia. Saracens in the Middle Ages, any person, Arab, Turk, or others who profess the religion of Islam. So they making it clear the people that they targeted was not Arabs, they were not Turks, they were not practicing Islam. Early in the Roman world, there had been references to Saracens by late classical authors in the first 3 centuries AD, the term being then applied to an Arab tribe living in the Sinai Peninsula. So again, it says Saracens, right? The Saracens are Arabs and Turks. Arabs and Turks. So they purposely targeted our ancestors. Let me see here. What's this right here? I'm not going to go into all of that. So let me go back to where we were. So family, I'm going to make this clear. Anyone that continues to teach that the transatlantic, with the tragedy that happened to our people, if they keep dumbing down the information by teaching that it was a slave trade, they don't understand history, and they are continuing to perpetuate the delusion of our people. That was a world war. So we already passed World War III, because when you understand prophecy, Israel is at the center of every prophecy, not on the outside looking in. The church has taught us to have the perpetrators on the same side of the Jordan as Israel, which is not so. The Most High is going to pass judgment on these perpetrators who have enslaved our people, who became the spoils of war. So again, let me say this again. The transatlantic slave trade is actually a world war. Understand Matthew chapter 24, and you'll understand the difference between the time of sorrow, and you'll understand the great tribulation. And we'll understand that, again, right, you had the transatlantic world war, and prior to that, you had the sub-Saharan war that went on. The Arabs targeting sheep herders, the wandering sheep herders, which is Israel, as Israel continued to flee from Jerusalem. But anyway, that's a whole nother discussion here. But we're going to circle back on a key point here. But again, family, don't get caught up with this itching ear stuff. We have already seen World War III take place. If you want to call the transatlantic world war the First World War, then call it the First World War, because other nations came together. Look up the Asiento. That's Latin or whatever for constitution or covenant or agreement that was signed by the king, right? But endorsed by the Catholic Church. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this. The bones are very dry. Now let's get into the lesson. But I just want to give a disclaimer. Family, stop getting caught up with all of this talk about end times, about World War III. We already had World War III, right? So my focus right now is enduring to the end. Right? No matter where we go to, whether you stay in the States or if you go to Africa, if you go to another country, you're still going to have to deal with the same stuff. A world war is a world war. And whatever next world war it is, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good because of the weaponry that's at stake. It's not going to be good. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. The bones are very dry. The bones are very dry. And I will explain this at the end of this lesson. But let's continue on. Let's pick up where we left off about a week and a half ago. We already covered this right here. I'm not going to cover this again. Let me fast forward here. I should have just went on to delete. Matter of fact, let me just delete this from my presentation so I won't have to see this again. All right, let me go down here. All right, let's see here. Yeah, let me delete this right now because I don't want this in my presentation. All right. So let's go to Exodus chapter 1, verse 7. I want to start off with Exodus chapter 1, verse 7. Now, the last session that we had, we left off with still dealing with Shem. We dealt with the Ebos. We dealt with Henry Kissinger. We dealt with the article from the Forward, right? Showing how the Ashkenazi Jewish community are 98 to 99% European. So we covered that last week, right? We really, I walked you through understanding who the Ashkenazi Jews are, right? So what we're going to continue to do, we're going to continue to move forward, but this is where I left off at. I want you guys to make a note of Exodus chapter 1, verse 7. So again, Exodus chapter 1, verse 7. Let's highlight this verse here. This is what it says. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them. Now there arose a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. But I really want to focus on verse 7. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty. Excuse me, I hit this too soon. And the land was filled with them. All right, that is a powerful prophecy, not prophecy, but that's a powerful piece of history that we see recorded in our Dabar HaKodesh, in other words, holy word. So again, increased abundantly, Sharatzah or Sharats, and multiplied, Rabbah, and waxed exceeding Ma'ad, mighty. I want to turn your attention to this work by Samuel George Morton, right? Crania Egyptica, observation on Egyptian ethnography, anatomy, history, and the monuments. And this is again by Samuel George Morton. And this work was published in 1844. But let's go to page 66 and notice how this is going to confirm Exodus chapter 1 that we just highlighted. Let's go to page 60, actually. Let's go to page 60. Notice what it says here. If it be allowable to make these data the basis of calculation for the past 35 centuries, it will follow that upwards of 10 millions of Negroes have been brought as bondsmen in Egypt during that period. And this is a cranium expert. Yes, we know that he was a racist, but guess what? They didn't debunk his work on the size of the cranium. I mean, as far as his cranium work, being able to distinguish who's who. Now, of course, the race portion of it kicked in when he started dealing with the brain. And he started trying to determine the brain on who's the smartest group of people. That's a whole nother discussion. But notice what he said here. If it be allowable to make these data the basis of calculation for the past 35 centuries, it will follow that upwards of 10 million Negroes have been brought as bondsmen into Egypt during that period. Wait a minute. He's making it plain off of over 750 craniums, right, that he researched, right? Everything from the nasal cavity, and confirmed that there was 10 millions, upward of 10 millions of Negroes who had been brought as bondsmen into Egypt during this period. Saying that this enslaved people were Negroes.
What?
It said the enslaved people were Negroes. Negroes. He confirms it, right? So he goes on to say, the vast influx of Negroes into the valley of the Nile must necessarily have left its impression on the physical trait of the Egyptians themselves in modern times, as seen in the Copts and in more distant periods, as proved by the Negroid heads, in which both the configuration and expression are too obvious to be mistaken. But it may be inquired, how does it happen that Negroes or their descendants should be found in the catacombs, right? Based off our cranium, his cranium studies, he found the catacombs, right? The same shape, right, as our ancestors that he had examined back at his time. Same people. But it may be inquired, how does it happen that Negroes or their descendants should be found in the catacombs if they constitute a menial or slave caste in Egypt? He goes on to say this, page 66. Negroes were numerous in Egypt. Let me say that again. Look at what he said here, family. Negroes were numerous in Egypt. Let me say it one more time. Negroes were numerous in Egypt. Let me read it one more time. That was for J. High Style, right? Negroes were numerous in Egypt, but their social position in ancient times was that the same that it now is, that of servants and of what? Slaves. Now, I'm not celebrating our ancestors being in bondage, but I am celebrating the confirmation that we are the people of the book. All right. So I am celebrating that because there's this a mountain of documentation that we could continue to prove who we are. So Negroes were numerous in Egypt, but their social position in ancient times was the same that it now is, that of servants and slaves. So let's give the garbage can to anyone and everyone that continue to come up with all kinds of nonsense, trying to undermine this awakening, including some of our brothers and sisters. Right? Let's go ahead and give them the garbage can. You know how we do here. Let's give them the garbage can. Right? That's how they're behaving. That's exactly how they are behaving. That's how they're behaving. This is how they're behaving. Some of our brothers and sisters are behaving like this, like this clip right here. They are mad. They don't want to be the remnant. This is how they're behaving.
Oh, Lord. Oh, God. What a fraud I am. And everybody bought it. except you. I knew your message. I knew your words. I stood right here. I preached it. And I was good. But they're gone. They're gone. And but knowing and believing are two different things.
See, that's how many of our brothers and sisters are behaving, right? That's from the Left Behind movie. You know, you had the priest. What a coincidence, right? The priest left behind, and he's complaining about being left behind. When actually, as I taught, there is a special blessing for being left behind. You guys remember I taught that there is a special blessing for being left behind. You know, let me pull that up real quick. I just got to pull this up real quick. I'm not going to go back into that, but I want to share here right now, being left behind, Sha'ar, the remnant. Let me just share this with you guys real quick, and we'll get right back into what we covered just now. Let me just highlight it real quick. And then we'll get back to our normally scheduled program. All right, let me just show you this real quick. Right, let's show here the Hebrew definition of remnant. Right, notice what it says here. Right, it says this: a remainder, residual, surviving, or final portion. Family, we are the surviving portion. We are the remnant. It says remnant, rest, residue. But I'm not going to stop it right there. I like to go to the primitive root word, sha'ar. We're that surviving portion. We're that sha'ar. Right? Here's the primitive root word. It says this: to swell up, an example, be redundant, left, be left, remain, remnant. And notice what it says here: be left behind. So guess what, family? We should be celebrating that we are the surviving portion. We are the surviving portion. After all what our community has been subjected to from the Transatlantic World War. Matter of fact, even the precursor, the Arabic or the Sub-Saharan war that was declared on our people, the 70 AD with Rome sacking Jerusalem. And then when you fast forward what the Arabs did to our people, and then transitioning from that into the world war that was declared on our people. And then we had to go through this 400 years of oppression in a system that was designed to keep us at the bottom of the totem pole. Had to go through the lynching period, and still our brothers and sisters are getting lynched, dying inside the prison system, dying inside a cell of a county police office, all kinds of things that are still happening right now. But guess what? We're still here. When alcohol was introduced to our community to try to undermine it, we're still here. When they tried to, bring desegregation to further try to undermine our community, we're still here. When they introduced crack to our community, we're still here. When they introduced these guns to our community, we're still here. Even introducing homosexuality, the whole LGBTQ and RSTUVWXYZ community, trying to introduce their agenda to our community. Guess what, family? We're still here. We are the remainder portion. We are the surviving portion, and we all should be celebrating like this. They don't want us celebrating because guess what? Can't nobody praise like us. There's something about us, Israel, that is special. There's something about you, Judah, that it makes us special. Nobody can sing like we can sing. Nobody can talk like we can talk. Nobody could walk like we can walk. There is something special about us. We are the remnant. We are the remaining portion. Some of you guys are the remaining portion of your family that's keeping your family intact, because the remnant is keeping Israel intact. All right. So let's get back to what we were discussing here. All right. We just highlighted the information on Egypt. Negroes being our ancestors, being servants in Egypt, being in bondage in Egypt. No matter how these so-called conscious community guys trying to come up with all kinds of foolishness, we are who we are, right? We are blood descendants of Israel. Don't let anyone tell you anything different. We are the surviving portion. We are the remnant. All right. So now that we've identified that, I want to take you to the one drop Negro blood, the one drop Negro's blood rule. Not sure if you guys are familiar with that, but I'm going to explain. Here we go. This is coming from PBS, Who is Black, right? One Nation's definition. But notice what it says. Who is Black? One Nation's definition. This definition reflects the long experience with slavery and later with Jim Crow segregation. In the South, it became known as the one drop rule, meaning that a single drop of black blood makes a person black. It is also known as the one black ancestor rule, because they also had the brown paper bag, right? For some of these for the Caucasians, right, that they was having questions for. They had to put that brown paper bag to match their skin, and if it was darker or equivalent to that brown paper bag, then it was considered to be black, right? So this definition reflects the long experience with slavery, the one drop rule, right? With slavery and later with Jim Crow segregation. In the South, it became known as the one drop rule, meaning that a single drop of black blood makes a person a black. It is also known as the one black ancestor rule. Some courts have called it the traceable amount rule, and anthropologists called it the hypodescent rule, meaning that racially mixed persons are assigned the status of the subordinate group. Some courts have called it the traceable amount rule, and anthropologists again called it the hypodescent rule, meaning, I already read this is a duplicate here. I got to fix this slide. Meaning that racially mixed persons are assigned the status of the subordinate group. This definition emerged from the American South to become the nation's definition, generally accepted by whites and blacks, right? Blacks had no other choice, right? So it wasn't accepted by us. It was the rules that they made. As we shall see, this American culture definition of blacks is taken for granted as readily by judges, affirmative action officers, black protesters, as it is by Ku Klux Klan, KKK. But anyway, we see the one drop rule, Let's go to Exodus chapter 6:25. And I want to share this with you, right? To further prove, right, we are the people of the book. Right? I'm going to show you, even with the priests, I'm going to show you Negro priests inside the book. Let me show you some Negroes. Let me show you a Negro priest here. And Eleazar, Aaron's son, took him one of the daughters of Putiel to wife, and she bare him Phinehas, right? Payanakas, right? Bear him Phinehas. These are the heads of the fathers of the Levites according to their families. So we see Aaron's son, right? Which is Aaron's grandson Phinehas, but his son Eleazar, which is Moses' nephew, and Phinehas is Moses' grandnephew, or what would be considered his great nephew, rather. His name is Phinehas. So let me show you another name, someone else with the name Phinehas. 1 Samuel chapter 1, verse 3. Notice here, and this man went up out of the city yearly to worship and sacrifice unto Yahweh of hosts and Shiloh, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni, and who? Phinehas. There his name. There he is again, Phinehas, the priest of Yahweh. So we know that Eli was a high priest, right? So Phinehas, the priest of Yahweh, were there. Well, guess what? There's another name. If you want to read, I didn't put it in here, Numbers chapter 24, either 24 or 25, you'll see Phinehas there. And Phinehas was a priest that stood up for righteousness. Over 25,000 of the men in Israel were smitten, died from an incurable venereal disease, right? Because of, sexual perversions, phallic worship. They began to mix and mesh with the Moabites, right? But anyway, the Most High sent a pestilence there. So there was a couple in front of the tabernacle of the congregation, right in front of the people, while they're mourning, began to do all kinds of sexual acts. So Phinehas took his spear and he killed them, right? And the Most High made a promise to Phinehas that he's going to be his loins, his descendants, was going to be part of the high priest forever. That you can read it. So we see that dealing with the Levitical priests, they are. Matter of fact, let me just show you here, and then we'll continue it. With my narrative, my narrative on it. Here it is. Easton's Bible Dictionary, 1894 definition of Phinehas, and this is what it says: Phinehas, mouth of brass. Notice what it says: the Negro. Wait a minute. Phinehas, mouth of brass. Who is he? The Negro. One drop, blood rule. But we see that Phinehas is what? The Negro. Come on, family. We can't get away from this. Phinehas, the Negro. So we just this name alone, this name proves that just the Levitical priests alone, just starting with the Levitical priests alone, are Negroes. That's why it shouldn't come to a surprise to any of us that the Limbas, right, are being recognized as being the Levites. We see our Bantu brothers, the Igbos, and other communities. In this, when I dropped the road to Savannah, I got a major bombshell I'm going to show, right? But I'm working on it. Hopefully, I have it done by the 28th. I got actually 28th. That's tomorrow, man. I'm gonna try. I got a lot of work to do to have it done by Monday. But I may have to take off Monday to make sure I get it done. But notice what it says: Phinehas, mouth of what? Brass. Right? That means he spoke with authority. But notice the Negro. And I encourage you guys to watch the lesson that I did, Anything But the Negro. I may even do it over again. Right? And I break down Phinehas, and I break down how Phinehas ties into the Messiah, Revelation chapter 1. So I encourage you guys to watch that series. That video, excuse me. So we see Phinehas, mouth of brass, right? It says, or from old Egypt, what? The Negro. And notice you see son of Eleazar, the high priest, gives you a scripture reference here. But even down here it says, while yet a youth, he distinguished himself at Shittim by his zeal against the immorality into which the Moabites had tempted the people. And this is what I was just explaining. In Numbers chapter 25, verse 1 through 9, and thus stayed the plague that had broken out among the people, primarily the men, right? So again, I just pointed this out, and there was a promise made to Phinehas because of him taking his stance, right? So just that right there, you guys should be excited. You guys should have another piece of information that you can take to your loved ones and say, look, let me show you this here. And let me give you the source. Let me go back here to this source. This is the Easton's Bible Dictionary, 1897. You could download this, but make sure you look for 1897. Like my cousin Benea always say, go to the old sources. Go to the old sources, family. Phinehas, mouth of brass, the Negro. Right? So the next question I want to answer here because we hear this a lot. We hear this a lot, that Esau is the white man, that Esau was Caucasian, that Jacob and Esau, guess what? There were two races, two different people. And even just when you use the word race, tells me that you don't understand what race is. The Most High never said that there was two races of people inside the womb. The term there is manner. That's what's important. Manner deals with what? Their characteristics, right? Their behavior. That's what it means. That's what manner means. Their order, arak or darak. Arak is the primitive root. So was Esau a Caucasian? No. Esau was not a Caucasian. Now we know some of his descendants have blended and meshed with other communities, now, but guess what? Still, there's some dark melanated Esau's, descendants of Esau still existing. Don't believe the hype and thinking that Esau got completely meshed into other communities. That's not so. Can prove that, but not going to do it today. So let's go to Genesis chapter 25, verse 25. And when her days to be delivered was fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb, and the first came out red. Adamawanai came out red. Some would say Adamni or Adamni, but this is the ancient Hebrew we're dealing with, not dealing with that other stuff. So Adamawanai, right? The first came out red, all over like in hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. Ashar. Now understand what this is saying here. Esau was hairy all over. He was hairy. But this is not saying he's a Caucasian because you see the transliteration red. Let me explain this real quick. The first came out red. I'm not going to go too in depth with it like I did in the lesson, anything but the Negro. The first came out red. Let's see here. It says Rosie, Adam, Rosie, red, Ruddy, or Ruddy. That still really doesn't tell you the fullness of his complexion. We see lentils. All right. Let's go to the Webster Unabridged Dictionary definition of red. Let's see what it says. Right. And this is another source you could download. Webster's Complete Dictionary of the English Language, 1886 Unabridged edition. So let's highlight entry number 2. It says of a lively flesh color or the color of human skin in high health. So when you see the term ruddy, especially when you deal with medical terms, right? Ruddy just simply means having healthy skin. That's what it says here. The color of the human skin in high health, right? But let me give you additional clarity with it. You guys saw this source in some of my other videos, but I want to reiterate this, and this is part of the lesson that I taught for 3 years. The International Standard Bible Encyclopedia definition of ruddy. Let's see what it says. Right? 1915, the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia, 1915. Notice what it says. Ruddy is the form taken by the adjective red when used as a term of praise of the what? Human skin, just what I pointed out. And this is its use in the Bible. Now it's telling us the use of ruddy in the Bible. In parentheses, it has the Hebrew and Greek word are all usual words for red or to be red. But notice that last sentence on the bottom. Notice what it says. It says the dark-skinned Hebrews found great beauty in a clear complexion. Let me say that again. The dark-skinned Hebrews found great beauty in a clear complexion. Wait a minute. Can I say that again? Because what this is telling us is this, they're making it clear that even though Esau was hairy, they're making it clear that he had no issues with his skin. Didn't say Esau was dealing with albinism. We know that there's different descriptions for albinism, and one of them is what? No pigmentation, or you have a blemishes on your skin. No, Esau was healthy. It's saying that Esau's skin was completely healthy. Notice that last line. It says the dark-skinned Hebrews. Notice what it says again. Can I say that again? The dark-skinned Hebrews. Right? Let me give this out to my buddy Jay Highstyle. The dark-skinned Hebrews found great beauty in a clear complexion.
What?
And this is where you guys should be celebrating, because we have plenty of old sources to prove that we are the people of the book. But right now, I'm proving to you that Esau is dark-skinned. They're making it clear in this source right here, the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia. You have it right here. You have it right here. The dark-skinned Hebrews found great beauty in a clear complexion. Let me say it in slow motion for the people in the back. The dark-skinned Hebrews found great beauty in a clear complexion for the people in the back. It didn't just say, it didn't say olive skin. It say dark skin. And I want to say to my brother, DeWitt Patton, no, he wasn't albino. When you understand albino, that means having no pigmentation. And when you have albinism, when you suffer from that, you cannot be out in the sun, right? Because if you out there in the sun with albinism, guess what? You can't handle the heat. And Esau was in the sun. He was a hunter. So I want to give clarity on that. He was not an albino. Ruddy does not mean albino or albinism. Ruddy means, as you see here, that's why we have to go to the old sources. We can't deal with these modern sources. We have to go to the old sources. And this right here, this is not something that none of us wrote, any of us wrote. This is back in 1915. 1915, guess what was happening to our community in 1915? We was dealing with that lynching period. We was dealing with the blackface minstrels that was going on. We was dealing with all that stuff. So they made it clear that the Hebrews were dark-skinned. So again, albinism, if you had albinism, guess what? You had a problem. It would make a note that you have leprosy. Albinism was considered leprosy. That's why you see the leprosy that the Most High punished Miriam with was what? It made her skin completely lose its pigmentation. When we see Moses, his sign was taking his hand and completely removing the pigmentation from his hand when he put it inside his cloak. So let's make it clear. I want to be clear. Let's not try to come up with all kinds of narratives. Well, maybe it was this shade of brown. No, dark skin is dark skin. Let's not try to go and compare it to, because a lot of people would take this, many would take this and try to come up with a picture of Malcolm X, saying, hey, look, he's red. That's not what it's saying here, because if you do that, then you're doing the exact same thing that many Caucasians do. When they see the word red, they automatically make it equated to white. So let's not interpolate the history. Right here, it says the dark-skinned Hebrew. So ruddy means dark skin, period. Now, if you want to look at King Solomon, then you can see a description of his skin complexion being compared to gold. So that tells you that he was lighter. But again, dark-skinned Hebrews found great beauty in a clear complexion. Let's not make more of it than what it is. Be proud of your chocolate skin family. Let's not try to come up with all kinds of variation. Be proud, because you know what? The Most High used Moses' dark brown, healthy skin, his great complexion, his beautiful complexion, as a sign to Israel. To say, hey, look, Israel, here's proof that Yahweh exists, because I'm going to let you see that he's going to lose pigmentation of his skin complexion. That was the second sign. The first sign was his staff, which is his identity. The second sign was his skin complexion. So don't let any of these people, especially all up in the church and these apologetic communities, tell you that, hey, we created skin doctrine. No, we didn't create no skin doctrine. They come up with all kinds of crazy stuff. Here's when the Most High used Moses' skin complexion as a sign, you could say that that's skin doctrine because he used his skin complexion as a sign. And guess what? When the Messiah returned, when you look at Revelation chapter 1, the Messiah's skin complexion is being used as a sign. It's not mentioned just one time in Revelation. You go to chapter 2, you'll see the same thing is reiterated. Again, the dark-skinned Hebrews, right? The dark-skinned Hebrews found great beauty in a clear complexion. I'm proud of my dark skin. I'm proud of my chocolate skin. I'm proud of my melanated skin. Even though, yeah, I went through that time where, it seemed like the Albie Shores and all of those guys, they were the it. And then I came in style like when Wesley Snipes came out with New Jack City, right? Rockabye, baby. When New Jack City came out, when In Vogue came out, when Janet Jackson came out, all of a sudden we came in like the Medallions. We came in style like the Medallions. So again, I'm proud of my chocolate skin, and I'm not going to deny it for anyone. Never would. Proud of it. As you see here, our ancient Israelite brothers and sisters were proud of their dark skin. Look at what it says again. The dark-skinned Hebrews found great beauty and a clear complexion. There's something special about you, Israel. There's something special about you, Judah. Don't be ashamed of your beautiful skin, because guess what? The Most High, his son looked just like us. The Messiah looked just like us. And the scripture tells us that the Messiah came in the image of the Father. So that means, guess what? When you're looking at your dark, beautiful skin, you get to see the Father. Oh man. Anyway, stop chasing, right? Stop looking for miracles, because you are the miracle, Israel. There's something special about you, Israel. That's why they have melanin conferences every year trying to crack the melanin code. That's how they discovered that melanin wasn't just at the skin surface. It was all through our organs. That's like considered like the God cell, so to speak. Anyway, look at that hand. The dark-skinned Hebrews found great beauty in a clear complexion. Now, can we have some other communities that are saying that they are Israel? Can they do this right here? Put their hand, and that's that dirt over in Africa. Can they put it inside the dirt like this, and they hand almost camouflage? When you look at the ground that's around this hand right here, looks like the crevices look like the skin. Come on, family. Be proud of your melanin. Be proud of your chocolate skin. I just want to put this up as an example so you can see. Adam was formed from the dirt of the ground, the Adamah. That's where you get Adam, Adamah, like the ground. So look at this hand right here, Adam, like Adamah, like the ground. All right. So Ruddy is simply describing the healthiness of the skin. So now let's deal with the sons of Shem, right? Let's deal with the sons of Shem. All right, here we go. Let's deal with the sons of Shem. All right, here we go. Here we go. Genesis chapter 10, verse 21. Unto Shem, also the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth, the elder, even to him were children born. All right, let's skip down to verse 31. These are the sons of Shem, after their families, after their tongues, in their lands, after their nations. And then it goes on in verse 32. These are the families of the sons of Noah, after their generations, in their nations. And by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood, I encourage you guys watch part 2 because I prove with sources that Japheth, he was dark. He was melanated. It wasn't this thing that you see that the Mormons do, the Jehovah's Witnesses do, try to say, all right, well, Japheth was white. And then they have Shem like a mixture. And then they have Ham dark. No, all of them were dark. All of them were melanated. Family, that's the truth, Ruth. All of them were dark. And I share sources in part 1. Not going to go back into it right now, but I encourage you guys to watch part 1 because I prove with sources. With sources. Okay. All right, here we go. So what does family, what does tongues, what does land represent? Because we saw under all of Noah's sons that each of them had families. Each of them had tongues, their own languages. Each of them had land. So all of them at one time spoke the same language. But we know they began to what? Separate. And guess what? They began to develop their own languages that was recognizable for their communities. So what does families, what does tongues, what does land represent? I'm going to answer that question. They represent nation. Let me say that again. Land, family, and tongues, they represent nation. They represent nation, family. That's what they represent. That's right, Christopher Jones. The Egyptians were dark people. All right. But again, they represent nation. Gawayam or Gayam, right? In the Israeli language, you hear the term Goyim. So family, when you see the word Gentile, that was added, that the entry of anyone that are not Jews, that entry was added after the 4th century, because the Latin definition of the word mentions nothing about Jews, right? It just means that you're descendants of a particular group, a particular tribe, a particular sect of people. That's all what Gentiles really mean. So when you see Gentile in your translation of the KJV, right, what it really means is just saying nations that are what? Divided or living among the waters, the shores, the islands, right? So that's Japheth. All right, so they represent nation. Land, family, and tongues represent nation. So here's the kicker, family. You can't just, I can't just quote something without giving you a secondary source, a source to confirm. So let's confirm this with the Oxford Dictionary. Let's see their definition of nation. Let's go here. Notice what it says. And we're going to entry, the sub entry here, right? Well, right now, we're not at the sub entry, just entry number 1. Notice what it says. The large body of people, remember, land, family, and tongues. Those are the 3 pillars that make a nation a nation. Large body of people. Now we got families right here. Large body of people united by common descent. This is what? Families. Then we see here language. Then we also see inhabitants of a particular country or territory. So we see large body of people, land, right? United by common descent. We see language, right? Tongues. And we see country or territory. So body of people, mash, paka, language, lashan. And we see country or territory, arat tazah. We just confirmed that the entire chapter of Genesis chapter 10 is dealing with identity. And we proved that land, family, and tongues defines a nation. Those are the 3 pillars that constitutes a nation being a nation. So what does what does family, mashpaka, what does tongues, lashan, what does land, aratazai, and nations, gawayam, what do they represent? Guess what? I'm going to show you. They represent heritage, mawar shah. They represent heritage. Let's confirm this. I'm telling you guys, Oxford Dictionary should be your friend because you can confirm a lot of information there. So This is heritage, right? Sub-entry 1.1. It says valued objects. So when you look at land, when you look at family, when you look at tongues, guess what? They are valued objects. That's your heritage. Notice what it says is valued objects, heritage, valued objects, and qualities such as cultural traditions. Now, in our case, it'll be the covenant. It'll be the law, statutes, and commandments. That's part of our what? Valued objects of us as a people. Unspoiled what? Countryside and historic buildings that have been passed down from previous generation. So land, family, tongues. That's the foundation there. That's the foundation there. I'm sorry, Sister Yvette, for having you up past your bedtime, right? You know, my apologies, right? Right. We're geeking out tonight, right? So if we was out in the world back in the day, guess what? We'll just be getting started, especially if you from New York, New Jersey area, you know, we'll just be leaving the house, right? But thank the Most High for pulling me out of that lifestyle. But anyway, notice what it says here. Again, heritage, valued objects. So remember, your heritage it consists of valued objects. When people try to tell you that we don't try to minimize the covenant, try to minimize the commandments and all of that, they're trying to devalue your heritage. They don't have a clue about heritage. So the Cambridge, let's deal with the Cambridge definition. Let's see what they say about family, because mashpaka, as I pointed out, means family. But let's see what they say about family. It's pretty interesting, their definition, though. It says family, now parents and children, but it goes on to say a social group of parents, children, and sometimes grandparents. That's interesting, right? Sometimes grandparents. So for all the grandparents out there, well, according to Cambridge, you know, you may or may not be included in your family. All right. So let's deal with the Hebrew definition of family, bayath, right? Let's see what it says here. In the Israeli language, it'd be bet, right? But nevertheless, it says here, a house, especially family, homeborn, household. So this is telling us it could be a literal house, but it also is dealing with bloodline. So that's why when you see here homeborn, that's bloodline. Sometimes when you see house, that's still dealing with bloodline, the house of David, the house of Saul, you're dealing with bloodline. So remember this, every nation consists of families, and every family consists of tribes, and every tribe consists of households. And we're going to further break down this portion of it next week when we do part 3. All right, because that's a whole nother lesson that was included in here. And I just took it out just for the sake of time. But we'll deal with that next time. So each of Noah's sons has a heritage that consists of a family, tongue, lands, and nations, right? So the key component in restoring Israel, guess what? What is the key component? Matter of fact, I'm going to ask the question to you guys. We'll have a little quiz here, pop quiz. What is the key component in the restoration of Israel? And you can type it inside the comment section and we will read it. What is the key component in the restoration of Israel? Right? Just go ahead and type your comments there inside the comment section, right? And we'll read it up here and I'll answer the question. All right. Yeah, you guys got me up late tonight. It's at 1:30 in the morning. So we'll go another 30 minutes. All right. But what is the key component in the restoration of Israel? If you guys know the answer, just type it in. All right. I see Jay Highstyle put Christ. All right. Let's see here. Didi put repentance. Ariane Ya put land, family, language. Keith put DNA. We see repentance, another repentance here. We see blood. All right. Someone put family. Someone keeping the laws. Tana Rich. Appreciate you holding down the moderation, holding the chat down. Really appreciate your support, Tana. Really appreciate you. All right. Keith Williams, repentance. We see Torah. All right. Really appreciate the participation. To love Yah and love one another. Let's see, Las Vegas, when Israel gets on one accord. All right. Law, repentance. Someone say Antichrist, Yah. Okay. All right. Appreciate it, family, for the participation. Now, let's go ahead and give the key component in the restoration of Israel. Here it is. Remember, what is the Hebrew word? What is the word for valued objects? Heritage. But let me answer this question. Let's go to Exodus chapter 6, right? And we're going to highlight verse 6 through 8. And this is what it says. Wherefore say unto the children of Israel, I am Yahweh, and I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians, and I will rid you out of their bondage, and I will redeem you with a stretched out arm and with great judgments, right? Redeem, Gaal or Gala, you with a stretched out Nata arm, Zarawai, and with great judgment, right? And I will take you to me for a people, and I will be to you Allahayim, and ye shall know that I am Yahweh, your Allahayim, or Yahweh Allahayim, which bringeth you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. But notice here's the answer right here. Verse 8, and I will bring you into the land, right? Concerning the which I did swear to give to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob, and I will give it you for an heritage. I am Yahweh. So guess what? A key component is land. I will bring you into the land, Aratazah. Remember, Israel at this time, they were in captivity. They still had their land. They still had their families, but they didn't have territory. Concerning the which I did swear, Nasha or Nasha'ah, to give it to Abraham, Abraham, right? And then we see here to Isaac, Yatazak, and to Jacob, Yaaqab, and I will give it to you for inheritance, Marashar, right? I am Anai Yahweh, right? So property is important. That's a key component in your heritage. Family, we have to start passing down property. We have to purchase property and give this to our children. Children, not a car. A car is not property. Clothes is not property. Pair of Jordans is not property. You have to get something that makes money even while you sleep. Property. We got to pass down property. And that's what the Most High is going to restore to all of Israel, though. Our property. So with that being said, let's define race. You guys have seen me define this here, but let's go to this newsletter here. I've been using this for years. The origin of the idea of race by R.G. Smedley. Anthropology newsletter, November 1997. All right, this is what it says. Contemporary scholars agree that race was a recent invention. Let me say that again. Race was a recent invention. Contemporary scholars agree that race was a recent invention. We are so warped as a people that we would defend a color, a color group, than more than what we would defend our ethnicity. We'll fight for the color black, but we'll attack those that are waking up to who we are ethnically, the understanding that we are the people of the book. But it doesn't matter to our community, but other communities, Christians and all, they can identify who they are. No one is saying to them, it doesn't matter whether you Irish. They can be a Christian and have an Irish Day parade. But we can be Israelites, right? We can't say that we Israelites. We Negroes. We can't say that we're Israelites. because now you start having all kinds of fights break out. You have all kinds of controversies like we see today. So contemporary scholars agree that race was a recent invention. Whoever invented this system, guess what? They got a patent. They're getting paid. Even the generations after them are getting paid. Contemporary scholars agree that race was a recent invention and that it was essentially a what? Folk idea, a fable, mythos, not a product of scientific research and discovery. This is not new to anthropologists. The term race, which had been a classificatory term like type or kind, but with what? Ambiguous meaning. Well, what does ambiguous mean, family? See, ambiguous means, it means general, it means universal, right? The Catholic Church, right? The word Catholic means universal. It also means general. It also means what? Generic. But then when you get to the primitive root word of generic, you see the word gene, right? So with that being said, it's with ambiguous meaning, vague, became more widely used in the 18th century and crystallized into a distant reference for Africans and other communities, right? It goes on to say, but here's the kicker. By focusing on the physical and status differences, let me say it again, by focusing on the physical, now we're dealing with stereotypes. By focusing on the physical and status differences between the conquered and enslaved peoples, we have been conquered and we have been enslaved. And the institution of race was created to make sure that there's a line, a divide between our people and the Caucasians. The Native Americans, they were conquered, right? And for a portion of history, they tried to enslave them. Didn't work out. But that's what the institution of race is created for, to maintain a divide between the conquered and enslaved and the Europeans. The emergent ideology linked to socio-political status and physical traits together and created a new form of what? Social identity. But yet you hear all through the church that identity doesn't matter. But we still see the institution of race created a new social identity for the entire world, flipped the entire world upside down and put us at the bottom, literally. Literally. So who's the architect of the system? Who created this system? Guess what? It was the German, and you know German and Hebrew, right? German refers to Ashkenaz, Ashkenazi. Johann Friedrich Blumenbach, German anthropologist, physiologist, and comparative anatomist, frequently called the father of physical anthropology, who proposed one of the earliest classifications of the races of mankind. He came up and created stereotypes, right? So what scientific studies did he use to create this system? None, right? Next thing I want to point out is hope. And I'm going somewhere with this because we're going to wrap up with Zechariah and Ezekiel. We're going to touch on those two things as we get ready to wrap up. So what is hope, right? Remember, identity theft, the system to destroy your hope. So you see the Hebrew word, the ancient Hebrew word is tha-kwa-wa. In the Israeli language, it'll be pronounced tikva. But we're not dealing with the Israeli language. We're dealing with ancient Hebrew. So hope. Notice here, you see the tha, right, which means sign, proof, evidence. We see the quap, right? If we turn to 45 degrees, right, to the left, right, it'll look like a horizon. It means balance. So hope, right? Proof, sign, evidence, because you are hoping. And then guess what? You have to have balance. Then when you look at the wa, it means tent, a peg, but security, right? You have to be secured, hope, secured in your lifeline, because guess what? When you look at this tent peg, you'll see understand the tabernacle, they had to have what? A rope. That's a whole another discussion, still dealing with hope. Then lastly, we see the ha, which means reveal. All right. So tha-kwa-wa, let's see what it means. I gave you the meaning, but let's go into details here. A cord. Wait a minute. So the word tha-kwa-wa means a cord. But here's the kicker: expectancy, expectation. See, every last one of you should have an expectation of the Most High, right? We have a lot of people, right? We have a lot of people that try to get so holy, on another level, that when you ask them a simple question of what do you expect from the Most High, they'll say, "Oh, I don't expect anything. God's just good all the time, and all the time God is good." And I have to correct them, like, no, you're wrong. See, I'm not serving the Most High just and not have expectation. I expect that me serving him faithfully, he's going to reward me, right? He's going to reward me with what? Everlasting life, right? He's going to reward me. He's going to bless me. Now, guess what? We all going to be on live for eternity, but what side, right? Your decision starts now. But anyway, so we all should have an expectation of the Most High. That like Hezekiah, he had an expectation. He was told to get his house in order, that he didn't have much longer to live. And he didn't accept that answer. He turned his face to the wall and he began to speak to the Most High. And he made it clear that he did everything that the Most High told him to do. So he had an expectation by doing everything that the Most High told him to do, the Most High would what? Take care of him. So hope literally means a cord. So hope simply means lifeline. Let me say that again. Hope simply means lifeline. Remember right here, right? Tent peg, right? And when you see a tent, you have to have a rope or something connecting to the tent to keep it stable. Unfortunately, in this image behind here, we see what they're doing to one of our sisters. This was a young girl, like 13, 14 years old, who did not want to show her reveal herself, take off all her clothes. And the white men, hung her up on a rope upside down and continued to drop her on her head until she died, split her head open. So they're holding the rope, right? And this is what the enemy wants to do with our lifeline. See, all of us have a lifeline, but the key is what's on the other end of your lifeline. That's why I say the system to do what? Destroy your hope. So hope simply means lifeline, right? Here's the Oxford Dictionary definition of hope to confirm what we just talked about. A feeling of expectation and desire for a certain thing to happen. Nothing wrong with having an expectation. It goes on to say a thing on which someone or something depends, or which provides a means of escape from a difficult situation. In other words, you have hope that the Most High is going to work, bring you out of a situation. You have an expectation, an expectancy that the Most High is going to do exactly what he promised to do. So let's go to the primitive root word of hope, wa, right? Notice what we see here. It says to bind together. An example, collect, to expect, gather together, tarry, wait. So here's an example of this here. Genesis chapter 1, verse 9. And Elohim said, let the waters under the heavens be gathered, kwawa, together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. So the Most High told the water to come together. When we understand hope, family, and this is hope as a community, guess what happens? I have a strand of hope. You have a strand of hope. And guess what? When we braid it together, it becomes what? A rope. That's what the men, when they had their friend, when we look at the gospel of the good news, right? We had the men who had a friend who was paralyzed. They had their faith. They put a rope together. They got onto the roof. They lifted their friend up on the roof, and then they tore the roof up. and let him down in front of the Messiah. See, that's what hope would do. See, our hope is supposed to be intertwined together to form what? A powerful rope. Right? So that's what the scripture is saying, the primitive root word, the water gathering together. Right? So separation and isolation is key to destroying our hope, because most of us don't understand what separation means. Being separated doesn't mean that you have to disconnect yourself, because once you separate yourself and you completely disconnect yourself, now you're actually isolated. That means you don't have no connection to anyone. See, Israel, we're supposed to be separate from among the world, but we're supposed to be what? Connected to each other. You know, we're supposed to be one community. Separation and isolation is the key to destroying our hope. So let's deal with this prophecy as we get ready to wrap up. The prophecy of scattering a nation. The Hebrew definition of scatter, we see here, Zara. Let's see what Zara means. It says here, right, to toss about, cast away, scatter away, spread. Now, guess what? We're the only community that has been tossed about. We're the only community that has been cast away. We have been the only community that have been scattered, spread abroad. Right? We see here, remember, we proved that the Israelites are dark skinned. We proved that Phineas is a Negro. We proved that all of them are Negroes. And what happened to our ancestors? Scattered. We proved that the Negroes were numerous in Egypt. What happened? We're scattered. We've been tossed about. We've been cast away. We've been scattered abroad. We've been spread out, right? To make sure that what? To ensure that it's a challenge for us to communicate, to stay connected, right? So let's deal with this key prophecy. Zechariah chapter 1, verse 19, wrapping this up. And I said unto the angel that talked with me, what be these? And he answered, these are the horns, Quaran, which have scattered Zara, Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. Wow, the prophet asked a key question to the angel, said, what are these? And he said, these are the horns which scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. Let's deal with the Hebrew definition of horn, Quaran. I hope y'all grab hold of this. Grab hold of this, family. Right? We see the Israeli language. We see Keren, which means what? Horn, a corner of the altar, a peak, in other words, a mountain, a ray of life. But let's go to the primitive root word, right? Let's go to the primitive root word, Quaran. Notice what it says here. It's pronounced Karan, right? Quaran is pronounced Karan. Notice what it says, to push or gore, to shoot out horns, raise, shine. When we deal with raise, when we deal with shine, right? Guess what? We're dealing with a messenger. We raise. Remember, we've been warned that Hasatan disguises himself as an angel of light. And Hasatan has ministers who does the same. We're going to highlight that. Let's just keep this in mind, family. So horns represents the nations, the leaders, or the strength of the nations that have what? Enslaved our people. So horns, Quaran, were said to specifically represent the nations that have scattered Yahweh's people, that have scattered us. So here's some key points about it. Which nations were represented by the four horns is not clear, because it did not identify the nations. Most likely, they were four chief empires that had oppressed the Most High's people: Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, and the Medo-Persian Empire, right? So, when you study this, these are some of the things that are going to come to mind. But for me, when I study this text, when I study Hebrew, and I went back and studied the prophecy, this is what really stood out for me. Let me explain it to you. I believe this horn is a key to understanding this prophecy. Let me reveal the horn to you, which I already did, but it's for those that did not catch one of the horns inside this prophecy that kind of get a break here, right? here it is. The Britannica definition of Quran or Quran, right? Sound familiar, right? Sounds like what we just highlighted here, right? With that word, the Hebrew word horn. But let's see what it says here. This is the Britannica. It says this about the Quran. It said it means recitation, also spelled Quran or Quran, the sacred scripture of Islam, right? But notice what it says here. The word, excuse me, Quran, which occurs already within the Islamic scriptures in itself, and it gives the passages, is derived from the verb qara'a, which means to read. It means to recite. Remember, Arabic is a Shemitic language, which comes from the Syriac language, right? So understand, Arabic is a Semitic language. It's the Semitic language. So it says here, we're going to hone in on this, derived from the verb qara'a, which means to read. It means to recite. Now, let's go to the Hebrew word and see what qara means, because we saw a horn, right? Quran, right? But when we go to qara, because Quran, you see this, here we go. Let's go. Let's just go here. I don't want to do too much talking here, but notice what it says here. And this is going to line right up with the Quran, the word of the Quran, the word itself, what it means. To call out, address by name, call, in other words, forth, self, upon, cry, unto. But notice this here. Name, give name, preach, proclamation, make proclamation, proclaim, pronounce, right? But here it is, verse entry number 1, recite. And then when we get to the sub entry, we see to read aloud. Now, I just shared with you that the Britannica said that the Quran means to recite. And we see qara, right, which is the primitive. We could say that this is primitive, going all the way to the primitive root, because when we understand ancient Hebrew, it's not just going to a primitive root word. It starts with the primitive root letter, right? And we see qua and a ra. We see 2 letters that's right here, qara. And we just saw in the definition that we saw with the Britannica, and we pronounce this in ancient Hebrew, instead of qara, it'd be qara'a. So it said it means to recite. And we see here, recite. We see here, read aloud, right? So what role has Islam, what role has Islam played? Just not worded correctly. What role has Islam played in scattering our people? What role did they play in scattering our nation? They played a major role, as you understand the sub-Saharan war that they declared on our people, and then their role in the Transatlantic World War. They had a major role in that, and still kidnapping our brothers and sisters. So let's deal with this vision as we wrap up. The vision of a scattered nation. Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 1 and 2. Let's wrap this up here. So we see that Zechariah dealt with, I believe, the Islamic people. It's dealing with Islam. It's dealing with their doctrine. Quran, right? We see it there, one of the horns that helped what? Disperse, scatter Yah's people. All right, wrapping this up. So let's go to verse 1 and 2 of Ezekiel. The hand of Yahweh was upon me and carried me out in the spirit of Yahweh and set me down in the midst of the valley, which was full of bones. Now, you guys recognize this. You know, in church, especially if you came up Baptist or Pentecostal, whenever they do a revival, it's almost guaranteed they're going to bring Ezekiel 37 up, right? They're going to bring this up. But let's read this. The hand of Yahweh was upon me and carried me out in the spirit of Yahweh and set me down in the midst of the valley, which was full of bones. Verse 2, and caused me to pass by round about, and behold, there were very many in the open valley, and lo, they were very dry. So we're going to deal with this these dry bones, to give you proper clarity of what the text is saying, right? Very dry bones. And I'm going to ask you the question. I'm just going to ask this question as we get ready to wrap up. We got 10 more minutes. What does dry bones mean? What comes to mind when you see dry bones or very dry? Type it in the comment section. We're going to give the answer, provide the answer. But what do you see? When you think of dry bones, what do you think of? Dry bones. Just type it in and we'll read your comments here and as we get ready to wrap up. I'll give you a second here to type in your answer. And while you're doing that, we're going to pause for a commercial break. Here we go.
I'm so glad you're here because you can bring great clarity. Can you tell us a little bit about the Sephardic Jews and how they were scattered because they went west?
I sure can.
Because the reason why I want to is because a lot of them, and a lot of people don't know this, are in the Caribbean.
They are.
In the islands.
And you're one of them. I know that.
I'm one of them.
I know that.
Because, a lot of folk don't know that those roots are there. One of the first batches of slaves that came to Jamaica, they were the Sephardic Jews. It's documented.
And they're all over the Caribbean, South America, Central America, and even the South Central United States.
Wow.
And DNA testing is a factor in all this now.
All right, family, let's go ahead and see what the names are here or the consensus here. What you guys believe that it means. Joy, she put here, dry bones. All right. Actually, she put death. I'm sorry. Tana, Rich, she put here. She responded to someone. I thought she responded to the question. All right. Yolanda, death. Yvette, Sister Yvette, no life. Yochanan, he put here death. All right. Let's see here. War raw, corpse. Stay on fire. Israel. Let's see here. Unorthodox, daughter of Zion, death, deserted. Ernest Higgs, death in the spirit. Okay. Tana Rich, dead. Angela Love Yah, she put here tired, weak, no life. Yolanda, massive grave. Let's see who else here. Let's see. All right, we're going to deal with that tomorrow. Subscribe to the Patreon, and we're going to start posting some lessons there tomorrow. All right, I'm going to post the first lesson, Hebrew lesson there. Okay, appreciate you. Tana sleep, J High Style no spirit, cry aloud spare not, dead sleep, stay on fire again. Israel sleeping, AD spiritless, Sister Yvette no hope, Stacy Pullum. Death. Let's see here. Bones without mirrors. Chris Selly. Skeleton. Peace out, Israel. Okay, so let's go ahead and give the answer. Appreciate you guys for your participation. And if I had a participation trophy, I would give all of you guys one. I really appreciate it. So let's go ahead and define what this means. It says these bones were very dry. Let me show you what it means to be very dry. The Hebrew definition of dry. Notice what you see here, right? Yabash, right? It means to be ashamed, confused, disappointed, be confounded, shame, do shame fully or fully. So this is saying when you see the bones are very dry, it's saying that these bones are very ashamed. These bones are confused. These bones are disappointed. These bones have been confounded, right? Think about what's happening to our people right now. We as a community, we are ashamed as a people. That's why so many of our brothers and sisters are whitening, using all kinds of things to bleach their skin. This is why so many are pressed to get their hair to look a certain way, put all kinds of chemicals in their hair. We are ashamed. We also confused. So many of our brothers and sisters are fighting each other, in the church, fighting this awakening. And we are the same people. You got the Kemet community. You got all these different communities fighting against each other, confused. Even in this awakening, you guys witnessed it. I got attacked a number of times, minding my own business, by our own so-called brothers and sisters that are in this awakening. Why? Because we as a people, we are ashamed. We are confused. We are disappointed. We are confounded. We are filled with shame, doing shameful things. That's what it means to be very dry. It means confused. We as a people, we are very confused. But the Most High has a plan because we're starting to wake up as a people. We're coming. Now that confusion is being dealt with. Now that confusion is being dealt with, family. Man, you guys should be praising the Most High right now. You guys should be doing this right now in your spirit. I know you can't get up and dance depending on where you're located at, but just knowing that the Most High is giving you clarity on his word. So that's what it means as a community. We are confused, family. We are confounded. Shamed. All right. That's what it means. That's what it means to be these dry bones. That's what it means. That's exactly what it means to be dry. Who are these dry bones? I gave you the answer, but who are these dry bones? Who are the remnant, as I pointed out, that the Most High is waking up? Who are the surviving portion? Let's go to Ezekiel. Let's go back to Ezekiel. Let's go to chapter 11. And let the word speak for itself. It says, then he said unto me, son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. You'll see the word kal, right? So the whole kal, house, bayath of Israel, Yashara'al, the whole house of Israel. Behold, they say our bones are dry. In other words, what it's saying here, we are confused. Wait a minute. When you see where it says our bones are dried, this is Israel, because now the prophet is trying to speak life to revive them. So guess what? The response of Israel, because the Most High had to tell the prophet that this is Israel. The prophet did not recognize Israel. Israel is in such a confusion, a confused state, a shameful state that they were unrecognizable. And so the Most High had to tell the prophet who these confused group of people is. Israel, we're unrecognizable because we're so confused as a people. Son of Yah, these bones are the whole house of Israel. That means the northern kingdom, the southern kingdom, all together, Jerusalem, all together. Behold, they say, says Israel is saying this, our bones are what? Dry. Said we are confused, we are confounded, and we lost our what? Hope. In other words, we lost our lifeline. We lost our hope. We lost our drive. We lost our motivation. We lost our will. We lost our zeal. We lost our identity. Our bones are dried. We are confused. Our hope, our lifeline is lost. We are cut off for our parts. In other words, we're disconnected. We're disconnected from our lifeline. That's what it's saying here. We are what? Confused. We are lost because guess what? We have no hope. We have no expectation, or a very low expectation that we can allow anyone to come into our community and do anything to our community. We see that happening right now. Come on, especially some of you guys that grew up in the projects like I did. Somebody could kick in somebody's door, literally rob them, steal everything in their apartment, and everyone could witness. And guess what they're going to say? My name is Paul. That's between y'all. My name is Bennett. I ain't in it. You know, we become an island, every individual. So that's what this scripture is saying. It's saying that Israel is crying out, saying that we are confused. We are ashamed. We lost our lifeline. We're disconnected. We don't know who we are. We are disconnected. We are isolated. So the prophecy to break the consequences. Here's the prophecy. Wrapping this up. Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 12 and 13. This is my favorite text right here. Therefore, prophesy and say to them. So the Most High is telling the prophet to prophesy. Prophesy means speak word of life. Speak the word of life. Speak the word of life. Take the authority like in the very beginning. Every day the Most High had started the day off by speaking life. When it says, and God said, in Hebrew is Waya Amar Alahayim, right? Waya Amar. That means Amar doesn't just mean said, it means command. Every day of creation, the Most High started the day off by giving a command for the day to carry out the way that it needs to carry out, for it to come together. Every day when you get up out of your bed, you command, you got the power. The scripture tells us death and life is in the power of the tongue. You can get up in the first thing in the morning and you can do what? Speak life. You have the power to set the atmosphere. That's what the Most High is saying to this prophet. The Most High is telling the prophet, he said, therefore prophesy, speak life, and say unto them, thus saith Yahweh. He said, declare the word of Yahweh Elohim to the people. Say, behold, O my people, I will open up your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves and bring you into the land of what? Israel, right? Restoring their heritage. It says the Most High said, I will bring you up. I will open up your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves. Guess what, family? See, Israel been the walking dead, right? When we see the movie Walking Dead, that's us. That's Israel. We've been dead people walking, dead men and women walking. We have been walking zombies, right? Right now, we're so lost that we're like the zombies. We're searching for life so that way we can bite that life, bite that person, put our mouth on that person through what conversations, through slander, cast evil reports so that way we can turn that person into a zombie too. We can contaminate that person to make them good for nothing. That's what zombies do. They search for what? Those that have the life in them and what? Want to eat it, want to what? Destroy that life. That's what Israel had become. We became what? The living dead. That's why communities, for the most part, look the way that it is. I will open up your graves and cause you to come out of your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. Now, notice this right here. Here's the fulfillment of the prophecy right here. And ye shall know that I am Yahweh. Guess what? The Most High is going to get credit for this. The Messiah said that in Matthew chapter 24, he made it clear that he's going to dispatch the angels to do what? Gather all of our Yah's people and do what? Unify us. And ye shall know that I am Yahweh when I have opened Pathach your graves, O my people, and brought you up out of your graves. This is resurrection. This is telling us that you don't have to be dead to be resurrected. Resurrection starts right now while you are alive. Israel, guess what? We may have been dead spiritually, but the Most High said he's going to what? Restore us. See, we've been taught through slavery, through these oppressors, that things will get better while you're dead. No, come on, family. Guess what? We all got a place of eternity, but right now that decision on what part of eternity starts right now. Your life, or what part of the eternity that you're going to spend, starts right now. You don't have to wait to literally lose your life to be resurrected. Israel is going to be resurrected. Guess what? While we are alive, that remnant, that surviving portion. Man, family, you should be happy right now, man. I'm happy right now. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm ready to just jump up out of my seat. I'm ready to do this right now. I'm excited, family. I'm excited, because when you see the prophecies, that's why, man, I'm not worried about it. I'm not caught up in all these rumors and wars and rumors of war. I don't care about all that stuff, because one way or the other, the Most High got a plan for the remnant, right? So, and ye shall know that I am Yahweh when I have opened your graves. Pathak, right? And it starts with that letter Pa. That's important. I'll touch on it real quick. But it says, "O my people, and brought you up out of your graves. So ye shall know that I am Yahweh when I have opened." There's a couple of Hebrew words that transliterates to open. Here's one of them. All right. We see pakak, right? And it means to open. It means to be observant. It means to open. In other words, the eyes. Family, don't let these haters hijack you being woke. Don't let these haters hijack you being awakened. Because in our community, when somebody say that they're woke, when you, especially the way I grew up, when you say that you woke, you saying that you up. But these other communities, like for example, and I'm not throwing any shade at Bishop Mason, but Bishop Mason, right, wrote a book called Woke Church, and there was a woke church movement among Christianity, especially among the evangelicals, and the evangelicals and all those guys, James White and all of them, got mad and started downing woke because Bishop Mason came up with the woke church movement, right, to acknowledge how our people are treated in the church, how our history is disregarded, right? So woke from our community simply means to be what? Open, means to be awakened, means to be up, means to be that you are aware. When me and my little brothers, I'm not little brother, but me and my brothers, older brothers, all of us, when we used to try to prove that we can stay up late, guess what? We have to let them know, guess what? I'm woke. I'm woke. I'm up. I'm woke. Guess what? That's what woke means in our community. Let's stop allowing other communities that have no clue about our community, how we get down, how we communicate. The words that that they may call slang, but among our community, there's a meaning to it. Let's not let them control our narratives. See, it's funny how when we start modifying words, adjusting words to make it easier for us to pronunciate, they use the term ebonics, right? They got to come up with a term ebonics. But when they start modifying words and all this other stuff, they call it morphology. They call it morphology. They morph the word or accents. They come up with all kinds of terms to make their sound good, that they adjusted words for their nasal cavities, because their nasal cavity only allowed them to have certain pronunciations of words, just like ours. So guess what? We adjust words so that way it's easier for us to do what? Pronounce them. So over there, they may call it morphology, but with us, they call it what? Ebonics. Call it ebonics, right? That's what woke means in our community. It means to be what? Awaken out of your sleep, that you're not sleepy. You're not tired. You are up. You are alert. So pakak, this means to open the eyes. This means what? To wake up. Well, open the eyes, take the scales off. To open, in other words, open the eyes. But let's deal with the Hebrew word that's in this text, right? Open in this text that I highlighted. You see, pathak, as I highlighted earlier, it means to open wide. It means to loosen. It means to break forth. It means let go, right? Open, be set open, opening. Family, I hope this lesson helped you to be free. Right? I hope it helps you to be free tonight, to be excited about being the remnant. See, lost hope is the result of being very dry. Let me say that again. Lost hope is the results of being very dry. Let me say it one more time. Lost hope is the result of being very dry. In other words, confused, ashamed, confounded, right? But we gave clarity, and I hope this helps. There you go, family. That is the lesson for tonight. This is the lesson for tonight, and I hope it blessed you. I know I didn't get a chance to do this earlier. This is what I taught earlier at our Shabbat, but I hope this helped you to understanding your identity, understanding to embrace your identity, prayerfully that you embrace being the left behind, embrace being the remnant, embrace being the surviving portion, embrace that you're coming out of this confusion, embrace that you're no longer walking dead, that you reserve yourself, stay out of these frivolous conversations that can cause you, if you're not careful, be infected and become the walking dead. So family, I really appreciate you guys tonight. We're going to go ahead and get ready to wrap up here. Appreciate all you guys for tuning in tonight. This was a great discussion here, and you know how we do, and we're going to give out a couple of garbage cans. Appreciate you, my brother Jay High Style. Let's give out a garbage can here for all those, especially the Left Behind series. Let's give a garbage can to the Left Behind series right now. Gotta give the Left Behind series a garbage can. Let's give that those that are behaving like this past. I'm gonna play a little bit of it, but those who are behaving like this.
Oh, Lord. Oh, God. What a fraud I am. And everybody bought it. Except you. I knew your message. I knew your words. I stood right here. I preached it. And I was good. But they're gone. They're gone. And but knowing and believing are two different things.
Let's give the garbage can to those that are behaving like that. Our brothers and sisters that are still within the Christian religious system, and those that are still within, that are within this Kemetic stuff and inside this Islamic stuff. Let's give them the garbage can for those that are behaving like what we just saw on display. The brother man who's a preacher, who is a pastor, who is complaining about being left behind, complaining about being the remnant. Let's give them the garbage can. All right, let's give them the garbage can. All right, so let's also, as we close out tonight, let's also give them a 3-piece. Let's give them a couple of side orders. And let's give them their order to go. All right. So with that being said, family, in the words of Moses, right, given to him by the Most High, when Israel was facing what seemed to be a dead end, and they began to complain. So the Most High told Moses to share these encouraging words with the people, because they were complaining that it was better for them to stay in their bondage, to stay in their captivity. We have some people among this awakening that want to stay connected to the matrix. But Moses, being faithful, shared these words. Exodus chapter 14, verse 13 to 14. It says, "Fear ye not, stand still. See the salvation of Yahweh. These Egyptians that you see here today, they won't have power over you ever again. Those strongholds will never have power over you again. Those stumbling blocks will not have power over you again. The naysayers will not have power over you again. The Most High will fight for you. But here's the kicker, family. Here is the kicker. The Most High will fight for you, but you have to hold your peace. And in that text, you'll see the Hebrew word karash. And that word means to be quiet. Guess what, family? We need to learn how to be quiet and let the Most High operate. Let him work. So with that being said, can't go back, can't stay here. Keep moving forward. Shalom.